This is Showtime, a podcast about the people behind the curtain and the stories that shape them. I'm Andrew G, and each week I sit down with creatives, leaders and risk takers from the theatre world and beyond. We talk about what they do, why they do it, and what it really takes to keep showing up. Josh Direen joins me to talk about life on stage, finding truth in rent, and his journey from Tassie to Melbourne's music theatre scene. We're going to talk about passion, purpose, and the power of performance. Welcome to Showtime, Josh Direen.
G'day, how are we doing?
Really, really well. What first got you into music theatre?
What got me into music theatre? To be honest, it's probably mum, if I got to be real. Yeah, when I when I was a wee little lad, mum was the one that sort of pushed me and my siblings as well to sort of get into the arts and singing. I think she sort of saw that we really loved music and yeah, kind of just pushed us into it. I mean, so originally for me it was the choir, I suppose, was the sort of starting point. And I didn't actually want to go. I didn't want to do it, the school choir. And they had auditions and I thought, nah, not going. So I didn't go. And then mum must have found out. I don't know if I told her or if, I don't know. I must have told her, I suppose. Anyways, she finds out and tells me, she says the next day, she's like, cool. So I've contacted the school music teacher and she's going to tell me if you don't go, tomorrow. And, she's organised a time with you. And so if you don't go, I'm taking the PlayStation away.
Nice.
And I thought, well, we can't have that. Anyway, so I joined the choir and it was great. I had a really great time. And then after that, a year later, I started doing group singing lessons. And then a couple of years later, I started doing some shows. And I started doing more singing lessons and, yeah, kind of went from there.
So what got you into musical theatre was fear?
Was fear. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
It was the fear of my mother.
Fear can be a great motivator.
I think it was one of those things where mum could see that I always loved music and I did always love music, but it was just that I think there's something to be said about like performance and anxiety. I think they're sort of two sides of the same coin in many ways. And sometimes it takes somebody to kind of just give you that gentle push to be like, hey, I think this will be really good for you. And it just turns out that it really was. And I think it was a really great fit. And I haven't really looked back since. So, yeah.
And you grew up in Tassie and you trained in Tassie because you're classically trained.
Yeah. So I grew up in Tassie and then I ended up moving here a couple of years ago now. Don't know if I want to say how long ago, say how old I am. But no, yeah. So I grew up in Tassie and I did my Bachelor of Music in Tasmania at the UTAS Conservatorium. And then when I moved up here, I studied at it's now Patrick School of the Arts. Yeah. And did their Diploma of Music Theatre there. Yeah, so I think Tassie really gave me a really nice sort of grounding and sort of base to really work from and develop when I sort of moved here. And particularly, I suppose when I went to uni as well, kind of gave me that base before I started that kind of next level of training, I suppose. So yeah, it was fantastic, I think, growing up in Tassie. There was a lot of music theatre there, a lot of really great music theatre, a lot of great teachers, a lot of great people to work with. And I'm so glad I was able to kind of get that experience.
And what was it that inspired the move from Hobart to Melbourne?
Well, I think it was that kind of thing of just before, so when I finished year 12, it was that thing of, well, what am I going to do with my life now, basically? And well, I kind of wanted to pursue music theatre. It was interesting because I think a lot of people expected me to move straight away. I think a lot of people expected me to move and, audition for VCA or something like that. But I looked at myself, and because I was 18 years old at the time, and I thought, I don't know if I'm actually ready to do that yet. It was kind of one of the first times I sort of had a moment of self-reflection. And so I decided to go to the UTAS Conservatorium. I figured I should hone my craft while I'm here. And I had some wonderful, wonderful experiences there, and I learnt so much. And I'm really glad I did it. And then after that, I thought, now I need to move to Melbourne, because Melbourne, in my opinion, was where sort of everything was kind of happening from an arts, it was kind of the cultural hub of arts in Australia is how I saw it at the time. And so I moved here and I went to Patrick Studios because I liked the look of the course. I had other people from Tasmania that had gone to PSA as well, and they had been getting work. And so I figured, well, if they're going to this place and getting work, well, I should go there too and check it out. And it was a really wonderful experience.
What is it that you love about Melbourne's independent theatre scene?
What is it I love about independent theatre?
Because you were talking about it before, like even as a kid in Tassie, you acknowledged that, Melbourne's got this, my words, not yours, rich cultural life.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly on the website it says, Melbourne is Australia's theatre capital. So if it's on my website,
it must be true. That's exactly right.
But as a kid in Tassie, being classically trained at the conservatorium, but still having that desire, that drive, that want to move to Melbourne. What is it about Melbourne's theatre scene that you love so much?
I think, well, I mean, outside of the fact that it is just bigger, you know, and there's more opportunity and there's more kind of going on purely because it's bigger. I think that is a big draw, and I don't think that should be understated. I think with, I suppose, that sort of larger circumference comes, you know, a bigger sense of community as well in many ways. I suppose that's kind of what everything for me, a lot of it kind of comes back to community. I think, you know, there are many people that, and, you know, there are many times where that I've felt, I've got to, you know, try and chase the work for, say, the work's sake, or maybe it was for the money. But after a while, I've sort of come, particularly after the pandemic, I think I've sort of come back into it. And I think what I've really loved about it has been, the sense of community, and I think a sense of belonging. Because I did feel I sort of stepped away from it quite a lot during the pandemic. I took about 4 years away from performing. And it wasn't until 2023 that I really kind of got back into it with shows like Heathers and Dogfight with you. And there was on those shows in particular, they were really, really special, I think, because of the people and the community, for sure.
You've mentioned community a lot in this conversation. What community? What is the community, and what is it about that community that really resonates with you?
I think it's to do with sort of inclusivity. You know, when I sort of, one of the key moments for me when I decided to kind of step back into it was I actually went to a party of all places. I got kind of dragged into a cast party that I wasn't a part of. I wasn't part of this cast. I didn't know anyone there except for one person that was like, come to this party. I was like, okay, sure. And I went there thinking, this is going to be really awkward. This is going to be a bit weird. And because they're all theatre people, you see. So I went in and everyone was just really lovely and welcoming and inclusive. And there was just a real sense of welcoming, I think. There was something about that really kind of resonated with me, and I was kind of chatting to all these people, and they were you know, very good at talking as well, which was really, really nice. So I was like, you know, we're having this wonderful back and forth. And I don't know, there was something about that party, that sort of interaction that made me go, I think I've been missing a bit of this from my life. I don't know exactly, I couldn't quite pinpoint it, but there was something about the people and the attitudes that they had and the sort of liveliness, the energy that made me go, I'm missing this. I should kind of get back into this, you know. And from there I started auditioning again, and the rest is history.
Have you found that your performance style has changed a lot since the days in Tassie and then training at Patrick's and now having been immersed in that community?
I think so. I mean, I don't think it's changed too much. I think it's sort of mainly remained the same, but I'd say it's sort of matured to a sense. I would say I'm a little bit more still now. I'm not as sort of, I don't know, I guess I'm not as eager to please as much. You know, I'm kind of willing to sort of take a step back, you know, sit in stillness maybe, let things come to me, let ideas sort of come to me. But I don't know. That's an interesting question. I don't think it's changed too much, but I think it's maybe more refined, maybe, matured a little bit. At least I like to think that. maybe I'm completely wrong. Who knows?
What was the biggest challenge for you transitioning from the classical training of the conservatorium to the world of musical theatre?
It wasn't too much of a change in many ways. So the thing with my degree, the way it worked, it was in classical voice, but all my repertoire was music theatre. So in that regards, it was predominantly, I would say, more music theatre related course, but all my other subjects at the course were more classically inclined. So all my history subjects, my theory subjects, and then in performance class, I was in performance class with all the classical students as well. So more than anything, I think it was interesting doing a course like that because it gave me a sense of sort of perspective in regards to kind of like where music theatre's come from, because music theatre, I think, really was sort of born out of classical music and opera, operetta, things like that. So I think more than anything, it kind of helped me gain that sort of sense of perspective. And I think that really kind of helps sort of ground you sometimes, kind of, how would I put it? I don't know. It was, it sort of gives you I think it gives you a more culminative view of where this has come from and what it is now. Yeah.
And how does that help you in the audition room, in a rehearsal studio, or up on stage as a performer?
You mean in regards to having done that sort of classical training? You mean?
Yeah, and drawing on the classical training, drawing on the history of performance. How does that manifest on stage?
That's a good question. I haven't really thought about that. I would say, well, more than anything, I would say from a technique perspective, it's really served me well. Like having that kind of more classically kind of, or what you might call, say, like a legit music theatre kind of technique base, I think has really served me well as well. Like again, kind of going back into this sort of idea of like stillness. I think there's something to be said about that because particularly a lot of like assessments and opera, there can be a lot of moments of just standing and singing, or parking and barking as they might call it. And I think there is something to be said about like standing and owning the space, sort of commanding the area. So I would say that has probably been one of the benefits, is learning how to sort of like command a spot on the stage and really sort of tell a story from, with maybe less movement.
With all that said, if you were to look back to your earliest performance, what emotion comes up now?
Oh, the earliest performance. Well, just nostalgia, really. Yeah. I think the first performance in a musical. I think because there was the first performance in a musical. I remember it quite well. I remember more than anything feeling the adrenaline. The adrenaline I was quite shocked by, and I remember thinking, "Whoa, like." What is this? This is cool. It felt very much like going on like a roller coaster ride. Genuinely, I was that sort of amped up and excited to go out on stage. So I remember really having a wonderful time with it. And I think it's sort of those moments like that really kind of compel us to keep performing, particularly as we get older and maybe we get full-time jobs but we're still kind of really interested in this other thing outside of ours. So. Real sense of excitement and nostalgia, I think, comes to mind.
And is it always more excitement than nerves when you're about to walk on stage?
Oh, I think there's always a bit of both.
Yeah.
Kind of like what I was saying, there is that sort of that level of nerves, that kind of level of anxiety that is the sort of other side of that coin. But I think that, it would be predominantly excitement. I think at various points, in the past, it might not have been the case. It might have been the opposite. There might have been a bit more anxiety than excitement. And it kind of changes, I think, per performance, depending on the scenario, depending on how prepared I am, even. But I'd say predominantly, be more like 80%, 70 or 80% excitement, 30, 20% like nerves.
Has there ever been a role that you've played that's helped you process an emotion that you're feeling personally?
I think so. Yeah, even with Rent, for example. So. I'm playing Roger at the moment, and I think there's one of the sort of motifs that Roger is talking about is about how he wants to write one song before he goes, and there's this idea that he's sort of running out of time. I mean, and obviously the circumstances for the character and myself are very different. However, I do think there is something in that kind of idea of, well, I'm getting older, like I'm 30 now. I might as well just say it. So I'm getting older, and with that comes a level of change. I think particularly as a performer, there are certain roles that I can't play anymore. I can't audition for because it would look silly playing a teenager. But at the same time, I think with that, there is also, and I think there's in Rent as well, there's this kind of idea of acceptance. And I think that kind of comes into my own life as well. It's sort of like, I'm sort of accepting the fact that I'm getting older and things are changing, and also that new possibilities and opportunities are sort of presenting themselves, in regards to maybe it's roles or the way I'm performing. But I think this one in particular has been interesting to kind of delve into and sort of process maybe some things about how I'm feeling.
As you say, you're playing Roger in Rent. The lead role in Rent, and that's opening on the 13th of June at Shirley Burke Theatre in Parkdale.
That's
in
it.
the southern suburbs of Melbourne.
Mm-hmm.
What does the role of Roger mean to you personally?
I think the role of Roger is a really interesting one. I think it really sort of encapsulates the idea of having things that, you know, you might be struggling with, but then ultimately choosing to move forward. Because I think that is sort of how I've sort of been feeling about the character is he sort of has some struggles, but sort of by the end of the show, he's really kind of made that decision to take that next step and kind of keep moving. And I think that's a really, I don't know, it's quite a real feeling. I think there are always moments as people where, anything could happen in life that sort of gets in your way or might be quite challenging for you. And ultimately, at some point, you do have to take that step to go, okay, let's get past this, or let's process this, let's figure this out. So I think that's been something really cool to kind of explore.
The role of Roger in the musical theatre world is an incredibly iconic role. In Rent, an incredibly iconic musical. How do you prepare for that role emotionally?
Oh, a lot of alcohol. Yeah, look, I don't really know, to be honest. I think there's a lot of kind of technique work that sort of goes into it. But how do I prepare emotionally? It's an interesting thought. I think a lot of it kind of comes back to technique and experience. I think it's good to sort of draw on maybe experiences, but I also want to be, you don't want to draw too much on that because I don't want to be too method, Yeah. I think that's not my style personally. And I think that can, for me, that could cause more trouble than it's worth. But I think as far as preparing emotionally, a lot of technique work. There's a lot of checking in with the people around me as well. I think that's what aspects.
Do you mean fellow performers?
Yeah, the fellow performers specifically. I think because there is so much interaction between all of the characters, I think you do really need to check in. Cody, our director, is also a licensed intimacy coordinator, which I think has been really, really helpful. And having him there in the space to kind of help guide us through sort of moments like that, or more emotional moments, or through sort of intimacy, very intimate moments, has been really wonderful. So I think you really do kind of rely and sort of use the people around you, I think, to kind of help bounce a lot of those emotions off each other. Because I think there's something to be said about that as well. Like, you really do need to sort of play these emotions off other people. There's not too many moments in the show where it's sort of becoming a soliloquy where you're just sort of speaking out to the audience. And even if you are kind of like performing and saying something to a character, really. The audience can be considered a character, I think. So, I would say the people would be the sort of backbone of how you kind of help process those emotions.
Rent being a show with so much heart and so much grit, has it changed the way you approach storytelling?
I think it's an interesting show because it's so well loved and it's so well known. And I think having done sort of some shows like this in the past that are like more well known than I've maybe given them credit for, I think there is a sort of a level of care I think you need to take with, say, like the text, that I think is really, really important. Being careful with the text and sort of making sure you do the work justice, I think is really important, because it's so important to so many people, and because of the themes as well that are sort of explored in the show are quite heavy, really. I think it's important that you really kind of do the show justice in a way. But as far as has it sort of changed the way I tell stories? I don't think it has.
Rent's about success and survival, but it's a backdrop of HIV and AIDS back when it was quite prevalent in parts of our community in the Western world, and in the developed world, at least, we've got the benefit of pharmaceuticals now to change the way people can live with those diseases. But why is Rent still resonating with audiences in this part of the world, do you think?
I think the backdrop of the the HIV/AIDS sort of epidemic really is, I mean, I think it is the backdrop really. It's the setting, but it's not the driving force of the show. And I think the driving force of the show are the characters and the people and sort of the way that they interact with each other. I think that the disease sort of maybe influences the characters, particularly someone like Roger and Mimi specifically. They kind of have sort of opposing ways of handling the disease, particularly at the start of the show in the first act. But I think ultimately it really does come back to the characters, and I think that's why people love it. As well as on top of that, the music is phenomenal. I mean, Jonathan Larson really was a genius. You know, these are timeless songs that have just a lot of heart. I think there's a lot of great moments in the text, particularly of these songs. So yeah, I think a combination of like the music, the characters that are really relatable. I think there is also in that as well, there is something about the sort of inclusivity of the show. I think at the time, even it was when it came out, like there was it was quite inclusive for its time.
And probably very brave for its time as well.
I really think so. And I think there is something, you know, about that sort of inclusivity, that idea of community and belonging that really does resonate with people in 2025.
So in 2025, what does artistic bravery mean to you?
Oh, artistic bravery. I would say taking a chance is probably one of the bravest things you can do. Taking a chance, particularly if you don't know if the idea is going to amount to anything, if it's going to be received well or how it's sort of going to go. But I think there is being able to take a chance, that sort of leap of faith, I think would probably encapsulate my idea of artistic bravery. Yeah.
It's a real ensemble of a show. Everyone that's on the stage is really part of propelling that story from the very beginning till the bows at the end. What's it like working with such a tight-knit group of performers in such a tight-knit production company like Aspect?
It's great. I really like Aspect. I think they're a fantastic company. And the cast are just the best. Man, I really like this cast. I think every single person in the cast is an absolute legend, and I genuinely mean that. Yeah, I think we all get along really, really well. I think as well the cast itself is, you know, going back to this idea of inclusivity and sort of community. I really do think there's quite a variety of people in this cast, and I think that makes the show really exciting as well. But I think audiences will really kind of, I hope they really look forward to sort of seeing this version of Rent. And I think particularly because it's, you know, with this smaller company and it's in a slightly smaller space, I think it'll really kind of help create a level of intimacy that maybe they haven't seen in a while. Hopefully, who knows? I'm chatting with Josh Direen about Rent, that's opening on the 13th of June at Shirley Burke Theatre in Parkdale. For more info and to book tickets, visit aspecttheatre.org.au. Josh, thank you so much for coming into the studio and shook us for the season.
That's all right. Thanks for having me, Andrew. Appreciate it.